Hey guys, it's Mike Millions here, and in this video, I want to address the 3 dumbest myths in finance and hopefully prevent any one of my Theta Gang viewers from falling into these traps. Myth number 1, you should build your credit by making minimum monthly payments so that the credit card company can make money off of you. In order to build good credit, you must be a profitable person for a lender to loan their money to. This myth is so prevalent among baby boomers and Gen X that my own mother fell for it, and that was extremely painful for me to hear. This myth is a complete lie, and personally I'm convinced that credit card companies have had some role in perpetuating it. This myth stems from the idea that in order to have good credit, creditors need to benefit from you taking on debt from them. And by making small but on-time payments, you're demonstrating that you're a good candidate for a credit card company to lend their money to. I can see why people get confused and fall for this myth, but it is complete bullshit. You do not need to carry debt in order to build good credit. A good credit score is not a reward that lenders give you in exchange for your interest payments, so don't treat it like that. Here are the factors that determine your credit score, and none of them require you to carry debt. The biggest one at 35% of your credit score is your payment history. Are you consistently making your payments on time? Or are you missing payments? Whether you're paying off your entire balance each month, or even if you're making the minimum payments, as long as you are making your payments on time, you will score maximally in this category. The next one at 30% is credit utilization, or accounts owed, aka your balance. This category asks, are you taking on more and more and more debt, or are you paying off your balance each month? The myth is that you score highly in this category by carrying a high balance. But that's not true at all. In fact, the opposite is true. To score the highest points in this category, you want to keep your credit utilization as low as possible, not as high. So if you have a $50,000 limit on your credit cards, you'll score the highest points in this category by keeping your balance as far away from $50,000 as possible, not as close to $50,000. If you have an automatic draft set up to make the minimum payment each month, you're soon going to be swimming in debt and you're going to score very poorly in this category. The remaining 3 relate to how often you're applying for new credit, how long your track record of payment history is, and how many different types of credit you've demonstrated the ability to pay. The idea here is if that somebody is constantly applying for more credit, that's a red flag that they might be up to their eyeballs in debt, and eventually they're going to start defaulting on their payments. And the best borrowers also have a long track record of on-time payments, and they have experience with different types of credit. To score the highest across all categories, make your payments on time, pay off your credit cards each month, and only apply for new credit when you need it. Myth number 2, making more money and going into a higher tax bracket might mean you have less take-home pay. This myth is only true under very few circumstances, and that would be relating to people who are already very poor and getting government assistance, no longer being eligible for government assistance. If that does not describe you, then going into a higher tax bracket does not mean you'll have less take-home pay. Here's the current tax structure for a single person in the United States. Let's say Lucas is making $41,000 and he gets a 5% pay raise and now he's making about $43,000. This myth stems from the idea that since he just bumped up into the 22% tax bracket, now he needs to pay 22% of his salary in taxes. That's over $9,400. When he was making $41,000, he only needed to pay 12% of his salary to taxes. That's $4,900. Now Lucas is saying, oh shit, he just got a $2,000 raise, but he needs to pay $4,500 more in taxes. He thinks he just got screwed. But here's why this isn't true. The US uses a marginal tax rate. This is an incremental tax structure. This means that you only pay the higher tax rate on the additional income that put you into that bracket. In other words, Lucas doesn't need to start paying 22% on his whole income. He only needs to pay 22% on the amount of money above $41,775. Lucas is going to continue paying the 10% rate on his first $10,275. Then he will pay 12% on everything in between $10,275 and $41,775, just like he was before. Then he will pay that new 22% rate only on that last bit between $41,775 and $43,000. In other words, he got a $2,000 raise and he's paying an extra $360 in taxes. So $1,640 raise after taxes are calculated. If this weren't the way it works, then we'd all have to do some serious math before we took on a raise. And people who either work for a wage or work for commission might have to stop working at some point in the year if they're afraid that they're about to go into a new higher tax bracket, but won't be able to make enough money to break even. That's not good for anybody. That's not good for the economy. That's not good for the consumer. That's not good for the taxpayer. So fortunately, that's not how it works. And myth number 3, Millennials can count on Social Security to adequately pay for our retirement expenses. In the last 2 years, the Ponzi scheme that is Social Security went into deficit. For most of Social Security's existence, there was more money being paid into it than was being withdrawn from it. That creates a surplus. But in 2020, that demographic flipped. More people started withdrawing from it than paying into it. Now this flip from surplus to deficit, this has been predicted for a long time because baby boomers are retiring faster than new workers are coming into the market. But this flip happened sooner than expected because so many people left the workforce in 2020 and didn't come back. If Social Security collects less money than it pays, then it's eventually going to run out of money, just like any other Ponzi structure. Social Security has reserves from years of surplus. But if there is no change to Social Security's structure, then it's going to run out of money by the mid-2030s. That's about 15 years before the oldest millennials retire. Either inflows have to increase by people paying more money in Social Security tax, or the government has to print more money in order to sustain the program, or the minimum age for participating and taking from Social Security needs to increase, or Social Security payments will need to get cut. The longer we wait, the higher this deficit gets, and the more drastic the solution will have to be. Something here does have to give, but this doesn't mean that Social Security is going to become completely insolvent by 2035. In the most drastic projections, Social Security payouts would need to get slashed by 33% in order to get us back to a surplus. Millennials are very likely to get some Social Security, but if you think you're going to make it by on 66% of what was previously anticipated, you got another thing coming. I don't care what you invest in, but find a way to invest in something. Because Social Security is going to be there for us, but it's not even going to be close to paying for our expenses. Find some other income generating asset and expect to be using that when you get into retirement. If you're a risk-averse investor, consider JEPI, that's J-E-P-I. This is a lower volatility dividend ETF that I really like. Or if you're really risk-averse and you don't want to take on any risk at all, at least pick up some I bonds from the Treasury. These are government-issued bonds that are paying over 9% yield right now, subject to inflation. I'll make a video on this topic if there's real demand for it. And some final thoughts with my personal finance recommendations. Squash your debt as quickly as possible, even at the expense of investing. If you have student loans or credit card debt, don't even worry about investing in the stock market right now. Pay off your debt first, maximize your credit score, and then start investing with a clean slate. I only had about $20,000 in student loans because the military paid for the rest, but I paid that $20,000 loan off in about 6 months. All I ate for several months was dry oats and peanut butter, and I didn't have a car. I rode a bicycle instead. Now, I'm not saying you have to go to that length because I did miss out on a lot of fun things, and eating dry oats for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is not an enjoyable way to spend your time. But if you can afford to go the extra mile, pay off your debts quickly. On the other hand, I hear about people who took on $50,000 of student loans. 15 years later, they've paid $34,000, and they still owe $41,000 because of interest. Personally, I think the way we do student loans in the United States is kind of screwed up, and the government should be issuing 0% loans instead of what we're doing right now, but that's a completely different discussion for another time. The world that we live in requires that you're going to have to take on some debt if you want to go to college, or you have rich parents, or you join the military. Those are basically your choices. But the point is, forget investing right off the bat. Do yourself a favor and squash all of your student debts and credit card debt first. Then you can come back to investing and invest maximally with the confidence knowing that you don't have anybody that you owe money to. Make extra payments direct to principal, squash your debt, then come back to the market. Thank you everybody for watching this video. I hope it was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one.